What is it about Mariupol that you think like the West hasn't known? Like, what is it that people may not understand about what happened there?
In what way?
Um, like, I guess I have this image built up of it was just completely the Ukrainians living underground. There wasn't that much, fight back because the Russians just overwhelmed it so quickly. And that was
Ah,
not my own
yeah,
experience. That was through, taking in Russia. Either the only media there was Russian state media, really, other than some
yeah.
in the steelworks. But is there truth in that? Because you were saying, we were fighting back. We're in these 20-meter, close quarter battles with the Russians.
Yeah. Well, um, because of a military experience, I was never debriefed about what had, what the process or what the battle picture was going to be. I sort of understood. Um, I sort of understood the. Are you still there?
Yeah. Sorry.
Maybe screen. Oh, good.
Oh,
Yeah, I sort of understood the battle picture that we straight from the off. I'd already told a journalist beforehand that we wouldn't literally fight in trenches. We wouldn't have the power to be able to do that. The trenches were quite long and big, and we were quite condensed in our military force. I was at a forward observation point, so the day they crossed, I couldn't be any further forward. The press were telling me that there was big build-ups, and we couldn't see anything until that day. We couldn't really see anything. The press were all saying, "Yeah, you're going to get attacked," and we were like, "Nope, nothing's happening yet. Just the odd artillery, the odd drone." The build-up brigade, which was to our right flank, was just getting battered with artillery. So we knew that something was going on. But really, my position didn't really come under attack until that February the 24th, which was probably the worst, the worst day ever. I thought at the time until obviously I was captured, but it was pretty intense. So I knew straight away we'd bump and run. We called bump and run. We'd hold them as long as we could. Then we'd go back, pull back. Somebody else would hold them, and I knew we would fight in Mariupol. I knew that from start. Nobody needed to tell me that. This is what I mean by the different degrees of experience within the platoons in Ukraine. My battalion was pretty good. There were some good guys in my battalion, but we'd actually got a lot of new guys that really hadn't experienced anything like this before. Fit lads, motivated lads, but this was all new to them. So I knew we were going to go and bump and run, go back straight away and defend Mariupol. What I thought would happen was we would get relief, or they would keep corridors open. What I didn't plan on doing was that we would get surrounded. And we still don't know the full details of what happened. I know they tried to get in. I've spoken to people and said they tried to get supplies in, but they didn't get the supplies in. Then they lost the corridor, and we were surrounded then. And then straight away, me and my boss knew straight away that this was going to be about holding and drawing resources from Russia and the DPR for as long as we could. And we knew, as soon as we were in Mariupol and we were surrounded, we knew we could be there till our death. We knew that. Everybody knew that that this was going to be the worst case scenario. My wife, I gave her a death message. Well, it wasn't really a death message. I sort of said, look, I think this is it. We're surrounded. The battle's caught up with us. I think either I'm going to be killed or captured. So don't lose hope if you don't hear from me. But I think this would be the last call. And that was sort of early March, and I wasn't captured till early April. So we knew straight away we were there to. It's going to be a kill or capture.
yeah.
Because we just knew that they weren't getting in. We kept getting told that reinforcements were coming in, but they weren't. They were 70 kilometers away. Then they couldn't break through into or get a corridor through to Mariupol. And that's quite tough when you're fighting to get up every morning and fight a battle, knowing that at the end of it you could be there for weeks and you could be killed at the end of this or captured. It's very demanding, very demanding. I've only ever done operations like in Bosnia and Northern Ireland, and where you go on your patrols, you come back to a base and everything's hunky dory. You've got air superiority. you know, for me, this was new. This actual war. It was miserable. I tell everybody, what do you remember about Mariupol? It was bloody miserable. Trying to get people motivated because they knew they were in a shit. We were surrounded. So you have to get people up every day to fight, and every day we'd come back with one less, one guy gone, you know, and we'd had no food. There was no food to come back to at some days. So you didn't have anything warm. Sleep was just interrupted all the time, every night, you know. And then we had to live underground. So we never saw the daylight for 2 weeks, you know, 2 or 3 weeks, because we were living in a sewer to try and avoid the artillery. And my boss just worked endlessly. I don't know when he slept. He probably saved so many lives just by doing what he knew how to do. Absolute trooper warrior, real leader from the word go. But he, you know, he was hot wiring JCBs, digging out positions for his guys that were having a problem digging into a rail embankment. You know, he was digging all these positions for other people because he'd managed to hotwire this JCB, and the only one who could drive it. Never driven one before in his life. You know, there was outstanding things like that through you know, lots of people doing lots of exceptional things that kept us going and making life easier because we were all in it together. So that bond between us all is what drives you, you know. But it's very hard to get up every day and fight like that. And if you don't believe in what you're fighting for, then that's when you see a lot of people have problems. A lot of Westerners suffer out there because they forget why they go. They want to go and help, and then it's not their country. And why am I here, sort of thing. For me, we've never lost the faith or the belief that this is why we come to fight. This is my home for my community, you know. They'd already bombed a school near us on the way in at Saadoun, which I managed to get on video to, I think it was to Channel 4, which was probably a mistake at the time because they used that on me when I got to Donetsk. But that sort of raised the profile of me. I'd spent 4.5 years being under the radar. Nobody knew who I was until sort of Seabreeze, and then when we'd done Seabreeze, then they sort of knew who I was. They targeted my wife, who works for an NGO. And then I was on everybody's radar. So it's very, you've got to have that belief in what you're doing to actually get through mentally okay, I think. And that's where I'm at. I still firm believer that you can't trust Russia at the moment. I still believe that we should give all the aid we can to Ukraine because they won't stop at Ukraine. When I was there, they were talking about invading Poland next. They want to go into Transnistria, upset Romania. They're not going to stop with Ukraine if they come to Ukraine. You could, you know, and I tell English guys, the Brits, you know, if you bury your head in the sand, you're literally just going to wait until they turn up at your door. You know, which is why Sweden's now getting involved, Finland's getting involved, and the world's getting involved because they just will not stop. They will just keep going. He wants the old Soviet Union back, plain and simple. It's a land grab. But for me, what I've seen him do is the only thing he's done is take a really cracked, divided Europe at the time before the war started and brought them all closer together. I think Putin's foreign policy has been a disaster, really.
Yeah.
You know, I just think Ukraine has now got, you know, the longer the war goes on, the more it favours Ukraine, I think. And I just hope that, you know, Putin doesn't do anything stupid, like nuclear war.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people ask me that question all the time. Of course, no one has an answer for, but you know how people always ask me, how close are we? And I'm like, I don't know. We're either right on it or we're nowhere near it. It's how long is a piece of string? Because you could argue that at any point, even before this war, we are always on the verge of that with those weapons existing all around the world and the effectiveness of them. And it's a very hard thing, and there's so many arguments on both sides around this. Like I read my YouTube comments, and the division amongst people just seems so massive, and so passionate on both sides. And I'm like, holy shit, this is a really, really hard thing to wrap your head around of the scale of all of this. And I've been there. Yeah, you know, I've been there. I've been in Mariupol, and I know how large the city is, and I've been in Ukraine for a long time, and you know, I've seen some aspects of the war, and even me, it struggles to get your head around the size of what's going on, the scale of it. From your time in Mariupol, was there any like scenes or stories that really jumped to your mind, like ones that are in the forefront?
Yeah, there's one I won't forget, which is coming back from Pavlopol, where we were stationed, retreating back into Saadoun. A friend of mine, Kostenko, was playing the piano. You might have seen it on my Facebook or whatever.
Yes.
We'd found a piano in a school while the grad was coming in, and he picked up a piano and just started playing some classical music. I had no idea he could play the piano. And the sun came out exactly the same time. I don't think I'll ever forget that moment, because my boss said, "See, soldiers can always find a light even in the darkness, you know." And he come up with this sort of saying, and unfortunately, he died in his BTR around sort of early April. And the guy could speak 3 languages, had the whole world at his feet, gorgeous girlfriend, you know. Could play lots of musical instruments, I was told. Became a really good friend of mine. We developed stories, and unfortunately, you know, ultimate sacrifice he paid, really. And I don't forget, you can't forget people like that. And I think those sorts of stories, I've got a million. But that one in particular, because it was documented, we videoed him playing the piano, and you know, he was quite an outgoing guy who you know, brought humour to the group. Was quite a hard thing to carry on after he died, you know. But he was a lovely chap. I think that and the community spirit is still very good in Mariupol with people. They still set up the group of Mariupol, so you can still talk to people. Everybody's kept in contact with everybody else, so they know where they are, and chatting and helping out as best they can. But they actually drove me through Mariupol about a month after it was captured to look at the damage that apparently we did on the steelworks. And the place was just empty. It ripped my heart out, to be honest. Places where I used to go for coffee just destroyed, you know. Shopping malls just gone, flattened. People that looked really tired just trying to pick up water wherever they could. Nothing was working. The streets were empty, but the buildings were just absolutely demolished. And I was thinking, we're never going to get that back. Community there or anything really, it's just totally and utterly destroyed. It's going to take 10, 15 years to even get that anywhere near where it was before. So for me, that really did rip my heart out. I'd spent 5 years, got married there as well. So that was very hard thing to deal with. But generally, there's a million of these stories that everybody can tell you. You probably heard them yourself, that everybody's got these stories. And one of the things I told my parents when I said, look, I'm staying in Mariupol, I'm fighting, was that people have got so much more to lose. We had a section commander who was in charge of 8 guys. His name eludes me now, Big Demon, we used to call him, but he's an amazing man, solid man. Not only was he dealing with his 8 guys, Kherson had got taken while he was on deployment in Mariupol, so he was dealing with the surrender of the surrounding of Mariupol, looking after his 8 guys, and trying to contact his wife in Kherson and family in Kherson that were now occupied Russia. One of the times I saw him, he just went, I don't know what to say. I don't know where he got his energy from, but he was still doing that up until the very end, you know, still trying to push. We've got to be strong. You know, people like that you hear every day. Another guy who was amazing, you know. And you feed off this when you're in that situation, thinking, well, it ain't too bad for me at the moment. My family's in England, you know.
Yeah.
And you feed off their positivity. I mean, they didn't crumble; they just carried on. Can't get in touch with his family because his family are in Kherson. He's got his 8 guys. You can't control the uncontrollables, you know. So he's dealing with that first, and then dealing with that second. It's amazing stories I've got of so many people.